Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Strato HMX 920 aircraft, and the configuration we're going to look at is the default one because there are no other options available to us. For the color, the default is B yellow, and it looks pretty good in B yellow, so we're going to keep it as B yellow. And there is your first look at the plane, although it is stuck in the ground, so let's just fix that real quickly. There we go. There's your first look at the plane actually on land and not in land. And we could do one more pan to the front, and then we could pull up the J-beam structure so you can see what that looks like. There it is. It's all custom made for the plane, and it seems to work out pretty good in crashes. And there are a lot of parts that fall off, so when you do crash, it looks pretty dramatic. And I like crashes that look dramatic because they're a lot more fun that way. Moving on to the inside, I want to go over the gauges here. So this first really colorful gauge, that is an airspeed indicator. Below that, we have a G-force meter or an acceleration gauge. Over to the right of that, we have a vertical speed indicator. Above that, we have an altimeter, and over to the right, we have a compass, just in case you forget which way north is. We also have two fuel gauges, because I'm assuming this thing would have two fuel tanks, just in case something happens to the first one. Looking down below, we have some more details down here that are worth noting. You have the foot pedals that control the rudder. Those function as you would expect. Then you also have the joystick, which can move around when you move it. And then you have the throttle control over to the left, which moves when you move the throttle. As you can see, we're kind of lurching forward slowly, but we have the parking brake on, so the wheels make it come to a stop pretty fast. Moving on to the next camera, we have one that's placed between the cockpit and the propeller in the front. Then we have one that's placed on the edge of the right wing. And lastly, we have one that's placed at the rear of the plane. And now we're back on the outside of the plane, which is the first camera we started with. I also want to quickly point out that all the things on the outside of the plane do move as you would expect. So if we move the rudder left or right, you can see it move left or right. And if we move the elevators and ailerons, they will also move as well. So now I think it's about time to go ahead and get this thing into the air. Because it's easier to show things off from the inside, we're going to do this first flight from the inside, but we'll do some later ones from the outside as well. So here are the controls that you'll need to know to fly this thing. First, you're going to want to make sure the parking brake is off, because when the parking brake's on, it does lock the tires, so you can't really move at all until you take the parking brake off. And as far as I know, there's no indicator on the inside whether it's on or off. So you just kind of have to figure out, is the plane rolling? It probably has the parking brake off. Is the plane not rolling? Parking brake's probably on. Once you do that, though, you use F and H to go left or right. So right now we're going all the way left because I'm hitting F. If we hit H, we can go to the right. And once we kind of line up with a runway, we can hit D to increase the throttle some. And we could just keep hitting it until we get a good amount of throttle. And then we can hit down arrow key to start pulling up. And just keep increasing the throttle. And eventually we will be in the air. And just like that, we're flying. Now, once you're actually in the air, the controls you use are pretty similar to the ones you were using on the ground. You use the arrow keys to control the plane in the most important ways. So, you use up to go down, down to go up, left to lean to the left, right to lean to the right. Now, one neat thing about this plane, though, is you have more than just the arrow keys, though. You also have the ability to control the rudder. So if I wanted to, I could hit F to go to the left, and I could hit H to go to the right while I'm in the air, because I'm using the rudder's aerodynamic properties to steer this thing like a maniac, actually, right now. Now, one thing that you really have to be careful about when you fly this, though, is the speed you're going at. You notice that the speed indicator is color-coded for a reason, because if you're in the greens, you can do pretty much any maneuver you want, and your plane won't fall apart. If you're in the yellow, you have to be really careful, because if you do something really high in G's, your plane will fall apart. If you're in the red, your plane already fell apart, and you're screwed. At least that's been my general experience. So here's an example, though, of having the plane falling apart. We're going to go real fast, and we're in the yellow zone, so it's like this is going to be, you have to be really careful in the yellow zone. You can fly it at those speeds, as you can see. But if I was to like dive and then pull up, boom, there go the wings, and oh my goodness, I'm going to hit the Statue of Liberty almost. That was really close to being a national catastrophe. I'm actually glad I made it to the land and not into the water, because I wanted to see a collision. So there's that, and I'm trying to find the outside camera. There it is. The other cameras, they just went all over the place. You can see just how mangled this thing got. It really falls apart great to me. Like, it just looks really realistic in the way it falls apart, and I don't even know where the rest of the pieces went, because we were so high in the air. Like, I had pieces go everywhere. Over here we have well, there's the engine and the propeller. Over here we have another piece that fell off. You know what I should do? Instead of looking at the pieces right here like this, I'll just jump into the air and then I'll do a break all break group so you can see all the pieces fall off all at once. Before we get into the air though, I have to add the break all break groups button. To do that, you're going to hit escape to bring up the main menu, UI editor, then add app. You're going to scroll down to the bottom-ish and you're going to find vehicle debug, place that wherever you like, and now you have a break all break groups button. And if you don't know what that does, it basically makes whatever you're driving or flying in this case fall to pieces. It shows you what pieces can fall off of a vehicle and which won't, basically. So let's go ahead and get this thing into the air and show you that. And the reason I get it into the air first is just because it's a lot more dramatic and pretty to see the pieces fall off in the air versus just kind of falling straight to the ground. When you're in the air and you do it, it just looks a ton better. So I'm just gonna get into a normal flight like that. That should be pretty good, and get a lot of slow-mo on it. We're gonna do 100 times slow-mo right here at the start, and break all break groups. So everything that can break apart has broken apart, and this really is why it's so fun to watch this thing crash, because there are so many pieces to it. It's really spectacular. Like the wing, for example, is 3 separate pieces. That whole tail section, it's a half dozen pieces there. And then the main plane itself is like a dozen. There's just pieces everywhere that fall off, and it's just so spectacular to watch. I like how the propeller's like, I'm out of here. The rest of the plane kind of just falls apart behind, but the propeller just kept going. Oh, well, maybe not. Looks like it's kind of slowing down now. But initially, it kind of just lurched off, it looked like. But you can see that all of those body panels on the upper area. At least I think you would call them body panels. If it was a car, that's what you would usually call that kind of thing. But those are separate from the metal frame. They're just kind of stuck on because of the momentum they have. But they will come off if I speed things up a little bit eventually. So let's go ahead and go 8 times speed. And you can kind of see they have mostly come off. There we go. Now they have completely fallen off. And that's how many pieces there are, though. Like, I don't even want to count all of them because there's so many, but you can just see it's wreckage everywhere in the air, and it's beautiful. How many pieces there are to this thing is awesome. And I guess we could go and let it fall to the ground in full speed, because why not? Thunk. And thunk. Ooh, extra thunk. I didn't see that thunk coming. There is actually one more part you can add to the plane if you really wanted to. All you have to do is go to the parts menu and you can select the BeamNG banner, which is just a banner that flies behind the plane, and I think it's stuck in the ground again. That is a minor annoyance. Whenever you spawn the plane or add things to it, it seems like it wants to get stuck in the ground, unfortunately. But once we got the banner attached, we can go ahead and try to get into the air. Oh my goodness, just go, just go. That was a terrible takeoff. But we made it, somehow. I'm honestly not exactly sure how that worked. We have to zoom out a lot to be able to see that banner, so let's go ahead and start zooming out. I gotta pull up carefully because I'm going full throttle. So there you go, you can see the banner. It just says BeamNG.drive on it, and it'll fly behind you and has like cloth-like physics to it, so that's good. And let's say, for example, though, you're like, I hate this banner, I want to get rid of it. All you have to do is hit the E key on your keyboard, and the banner will fall. And I want to drop it above the land just because it's not really realistic to drop a banner into the ocean. That's like pollution and all that or something. Well, not pollution, that's just littering. Whatever. Anyways, so there we go. We say we're putting it at the airport. So you hit E and the banner is gone. And another thing I haven't mentioned is you have the ability to leave a smoke trail behind you. To do that, all you have to do is hit Y. And it doesn't last very long, but it lasts long enough for you to do kind of something where you have like half a loop-de-loop. And I'm going in way too fast for this. I'm going to rip my wings off, I'm pretty sure. Ooh, I didn't do it. Okay, good. My sense of speed is all screwy because I'm so zoomed out, I think. I think I'm not going as fast as I think I am. But you can see the smoke trail. It doesn't last very long, but it is enough to kind of get an idea of what you've been doing for the last 10 seconds. Well, maybe 5 seconds. There we go. There's a good angle on it. So you can see how long it lasts. And now it's time to actually crash the plane, because up to this point, I just ripped the wings off. I haven't actually crashed it into something yet, so I think it's time to do that. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. What's the most inappropriate thing I could crash it into? Now, let's not think about that. Let's just find something normal to crash it into, like a normal build. You know, crashing a plane into a building isn't even that great in the first place, you know? It's like, it's kind of inappropriate in the first place. But oh well, who cares? We're crashing it. And we're going to hit it at kind of an angle. Doesn't matter too much, don't think. We'll turn off the smoke so you can hopefully see it. Oh, that was perfect. There was that little out area in the building, so it didn't end up crashing it at an angle. It still hit a head-on collision. So that's perfect crash. And then it can fall to the ground, and it got a double crash. And you can see just how mangled the plane got right there. It's not looking good for the pilot. Unless he ejected, he ain't gonna make it. So I think that about covers all the normal flying I want to do. Now, I also could do some stupid flying, like let's remove the banner. Then we could also say, you know what? We don't need the vertical stabilizer, and just see what would it be like if you wanted to try to fly a plane without a vertical stabilizer. Obviously, it's probably just going to roll all over the place, but I want to see it happen. I want to see, is it realistic? When you remove the vertical stabilizer, is it absolutely impossible to have vertical stability? Oh my goodness, it works. Oh, that's great. Because that's like, the physics of all of that is real enough where if you remove it, it actually works the way you'd expect. That's really awesome about that. I don't know if there's really anything else I would want to remove though at this point. I think I mostly just wanted to see what would happen if we remove that. What if we tried removing maybe the elevators but put back the vertical stabilizer, because I really do need that. Like I mean, in a real plane, I know you need that, but I was wondering, what about the mod? And the mod coded good, coded very good. All right, can we get enough lift? Come on, up into the air. Oh no, I have no way to. Okay. Let me think. Physics-wise, if you have all the lift in the front, yeah, I guess that's pretty much what you would expect to happen. So again, that seems pretty realistic in the way all of the flying is coded in this plane. So I really appreciate how realistic it is. So that means if we were to, get in a dogfight with, I don't know, something. There's nothing really to get in a dogfight with. But let's say you found something to get in a dogfight with. You would be able to damage your plane in hopefully a pretty realistic way. We could actually remove just one wing, can't we? Let's see here. Main fuselage. Where are the wings? I thought they were... Oh, left wing. There we go. We can remove just an aileron, which means we probably could fly it. It'd just be a little weird when we want to steer. I think. Let's find out. Yeah, this is definitely the most controllable so far. Like, I'm already in the air, and it's like, okay, I can kind of control this. So even with a missing aileron, you can still control it. I don't think a whole missing wing would go very well because you'd be so terribly unbalanced in terms of aerodynamic. But just the aileron, you can kind of manage it because you can steer with the rudder. And I just had to try to keep the plane level and let the rudder do all the work. It works good enough. It's not like, and I would never fly this plane in real life. Oh no! But it worked good enough until that happened. When that happened, well, all hope was gone. I was kind of not paying attention to how fast I was going, so that is totally my fault. It really is all my fault. Anyways, I think that's about all I want to do on this map, so let's go ahead and move over to a map where I could do a plane-to-plane collision. And I always use Leap of Death for this because it's, as far as I know, the only map that starts you really high in the air, which is a huge convenience for when you want to do a plane-to-plane collision. So let's go ahead and make our way over to there. So the procedure for this is going to be really simple. All we're going to do is spawn up two planes, get them both flying in the air, and then we're going to teleport one in front of the other to cause a collision. Yeah, now, yes, you could try to actually fly them into each other, but that would be extremely difficult because flying two planes at once is no easy task. I'm sure you could do it, but you know what? I'd rather just spend 5 seconds lining it up versus 5 minutes. It just doesn't make much sense to try to do it that way. So we're just going to put both the planes to spawn over here so they have a nice distance to drop off. And then we'll just get this one kind of into the air like so. There we go. That's good enough. Then we can get this guy into the air just in a kind of different, hopefully, direction. So maybe like that. And something will happen here when I put one plane in front of the other, I think. So let's just put him right about here. That looks like it could work. So now I'm going to do this one in full speed, so don't blink. 3, 2, 1, go. That worked out pretty well. Like it went, they both hit each other. There's no major glitching. And you get to see what they look like after the collision. Really, the only thing they hit was just a wing and a wing, I guess. So they just both lost the wing. There's no real major damage to it aside from the wing loss, it looks like. Although, was the engine broken? No, it looks like it was still spinning before it hit the ground. So even that was fine. I think that turned out pretty well. Let's try to actually get a head-on one. I wanted to start it off a little gradually, and then we'll try the more difficult kind of collision. So get this guy ready to go. Then we got to get this one and spin him around. It's not exactly easy to manage two planes at once, just getting them aligned in opposite directions, let alone hitting each other, you know that? So you could go this guy like that. And how's the other plane doing? Pull up. And good. He hasn't crashed yet. Ooh, just barely. Perfect. So we can bring the blue plane over to about here. So it looks like this isn't going to quite be a head-on collision, but it's going to be pretty close. And we're going to once again do this one full speed. And then we'll do the next ones in slow-mo. But I want to do one more in full speed. So here it is. Don't blink. 3, 2, 1, go! That was an actual collision. Like, that one, both the planes got shredded up. So there's one of them. And there's the other one. I don't really think one fared much better than the other. They both got absolutely destroyed. And we could let them fall to the ground if we really wanted to. I don't know if there's much purpose. Well, if one of them hits the water, it's good to see what happens when you hit the water. But I think I tested that before, and touching the water causes glitchiness. Yeah, I'm pretty sure what happened right there was one of the pieces from the plane touched the water down below, which caused it to glitch out. So that's the end of that. So we're going to go ahead and just reset both the planes. And then we got to get the blue into the air. I don't know if I'm going to get the red in the air in time, though. Come on, go red. Get into the air. All right. Where's blue going? Blue's going all over the place. Blue, stop. All right, so we got blue going this way. Red's kind of going that way. I think that'll work. Yeah, it looks like it'll be a pretty good collision. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 100 times slow-mo on for both vehicles. So 100 times slow-mo, 100 times slow-mo. And that way, when I make them collide into each other, it'll hopefully work out. So let's go ahead and teleport the red to about here. And the reason I enabled slow-mo before I lined them up is because if I was to enable slow-mo right now, it would activate too late. So it would be crash, and then there's a slow-mo. This way, I unfreeze physics, and they hit actually in slow-mo. That's huge, actually having them have the impact in slow-mo. And well, I can't even make out really what's happening here. It's just a mess of parts going every which direction. But it's cool to watch. It's definitely cool, but can't tell what's going on. We'll speed it up a little bit to 8 times speed. Yeah, neither plane is going to fly after that one, that's for sure. And it looks like one plane has glitched out. How's the other one? Looks like blue plane's doing okay, though. He's going to fall in a more realistic of a way. And I think that about covers the kind of plane-to-plane collisions. So let's go ahead. And now we can drop the plane down a leap of death as if it was just a normal vehicle. I'm not going to steer or anything. I'm just going to let it go boom like that and then let it kind of just roll down the hill. And this will probably be the last thing I do for this video. I'm not going to do any brutal slope or anything like that because it doesn't make sense to do those with the plane because it'll just fly over everything, basically. Or I would rip the wings off and then lose control. One of the two. So I think that'll be it. And if you have anything else you would like to see with the plane, feel free to request it. And if I get enough requests to make a full video for it, I will. Otherwise,